Good evening, Rule the Galaxy fans. This is Jessica, and I am so excited to be hosting tonight. We are here with Marc Thompson, who has joined the podcast before, but many of you will know as an audiobook narrator who has done the voice for many Star Wars books, in addition to all of the other stories that he's worked on over what I assume is a very long career. And so we are talking to him tonight, and we're going to be joined later by Dave as well to talk more about the Bad Batch, and really excited to be able to talk about how exciting this last week's episode was. So welcome, Marc. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you just for a little bit on my own. I know that the guys are going to be able to come in and talk about all things Star Wars, but I'm really the book girl of all of us. So, can you talk to me a little bit about when your career started with Star Wars specifically, and what stage in the rest of your professional life were you when that happened?
Yeah. So I believe it was 2006. I'm pretty sure. And basically up to that point, I had done a lot of animation. Like I do some work on like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles I did that we actually just celebrated our 20th anniversary. So I was mainly doing that stuff. And then I got an agent during that time, and they started sending me on commercial work and stuff. And my agent called and said, have you ever done audiobooks? And I was kind of like, no, not really. And I was kind of trying to maybe talk her out of it, because like I was the guy in high school that when you had to do a book report, I would try to watch the movie and do the report on the movie instead of the book. I just, I was a lazy high school student and didn't like read for pleasure or fun, or so I was, the idea of like reading a whole book, I was like, oh, I'm out of school, I don't want to do that. So but then they're like, well, it's a Star Wars book, and I was like, whoa, okay, hold on. So then I was like really excited, and it was the Legacy of the Force series, if you're familiar with that. So it's kind of like way down the line, like Luke and Mara's kids are adults, and Han and Leia's kids are adults, and it's kind of like what's happening to all of them, and it was really epic, and it was really great, and it was actually my first real like audiobook. Like so like I was kind of jumping into a very important property, but it was also my first time doing an audiobook, so it was a little intimidating, and I had to kind of learn a lot of things on the fly. But now I kind of get it. Now I joke. It's like, oh, I understand why people like to read now, because like you get so much more time with the characters and get to kind of understand their thought process and what they're thinking. And so now I actually legit enjoy it. But at first it was like really intimidating. But I was very excited to get it.
I think that it's kind of funny that you were never the kid to read a full book, but
Yeah.
now you're you're doing the narration for full books, but
Yeah.
it's kind of the same way where I just don't have time anymore to just sit down and read a book straight through. So you're kind of enabling people to continue to be able to
More
read.
of me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but do it in a different format. So
Yeah.
that's so cool. And I heard in a different interview that you gave that you kind of described that first work as, you got the job because you could do the voices, but then you had to, really learn
Yeah.
all those things, how to tell the story in general. So, but when it comes to the voices, I mean, is that a talent that you've always had? Were you a kid doing voices like that, or did you really just find it with an opportunity like this?
No, I pretty much was always kind of a parrot and kind of mimicking things I would hear on TV, or my dad always likes to remind me that in middle school my teacher gave me like the Sony Motor Mouth Award or something like that, because when everyone was supposed to be doing homework quietly in class, I was like making little noises and things like that. And I remember one time someone called the house asking for my mom, and she wasn't there, but I decided to see like, let me see if I can get away with this. And I was like, hello, Chris Thompson, and I was trying to like do my like mom's voice, and I was young enough where I could pull it off, and they totally bought it. Like they didn't know, that wasn't it. So that was kind of like a little bit addicting. I was like, ooh, this is fun. So I would then, try to mimic, Kermit the Frog and different things I would hear on TV, and it's just something I picked up over the years and really enjoy. So
I always love hearing those stories about how the thing that you were criticized for when you were younger, you
yeah.
found an outlet for.
Yeah. My
For
dad
me,
also, well, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, but I was just gonna say, for me, it was that, I was always criticized for being, too critical, noticing the bad in everything. And then I got a
Okay.
job as a copy editor at a publisher
That's awesome.
because they're the
That's
only ones who care about, the
right.
commas and everything. So you
Oh,
got to
that's
just find
brilliant.
that thing that you've been made to do.
Yeah. No, my dad used to tell me, like, my dad's an engineer, and now I understand that he was trying to protect me from having an unstable job and wanted me to kind of go into a field with that, you could guarantee that you'd be able to make a living. But he used to say, like, overacting is a felony, and you can't, like you have to do something like, reliable or whatever. And so there's a little bit of gratification that I get to, like, do the same thing. It's
Yes.
like, ah. So
Was
it's
there
fun.
ever anything on the docket? If you weren't doing this, what would you have been doing?
I mean, not really. Like, there was one. I mean, well, I was a minister for a long time, so I guess I could have stuck with that or pursued that. And then I thought I dabbled, like, with the idea of being a teacher, and I there was a period of time where I was needing to find work, and I started substitute teaching. Um, but I don't know if it was because I was a substitute, but I would kind of go in and have these really elaborate games planned for the kids, and like these really cool object lessons, and they just did not want to have anything to do with me, and they just couldn't wait to, like, tear me up. And so I was really kind of discouraged. But then I started booking so many voiceover jobs that the principal was like, you can't keep taking off for the, like, if you're going to do this, we need you to do this. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to really do voiceovers. So yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I've got a lot of friends who are actors, creatives who have to be able to work on the fly. But you're absolutely right. I worked in a school for a little while, and when you're subbing, you have to be just as open to be able to take that job right
Yeah,
away.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's so cool. I love that you were able to come in and really found that you have, a real place where you can use those voices, you can use that storytelling ability.
Yeah.
So do you know off the top of your head how many Star Wars books you've been involved in, or any kind of estimate?
My I don't know the exact number. I think it might be somewhere around, like, 70 or 80 at this point, I think.
That wouldn't surprise
Um
me. All I know is that
yeah.
when I was scrolling Wikipedia, it was just like it just kept going.
Yeah. No, I've been really lucky. Like, I've done other audiobooks. Like, I've done business books, and I've done young adult books, and I've done other novels, and just, but I'm such a Star Wars fan that it's such a big deal to me that I get to do that many Star Wars. And I don't know if I'd um enjoy it as much as I do if it weren't, the galaxy far, far away. So I
Yeah,
feel very blessed that I get to do it. So
love that. I'm sure that there are certain books that people really associate you with. Is there any book that you feel like deserves a bigger appreciation in
ooh,
the
good question.
fandom?
That's a great question. Um, well, I will say that, like, it might be just because I wasn't aware of it at the time, because I feel like I don't know how active I was on the internet, or how active the internet was in 2006. It all kind of felt new, but, like, I wasn't super aware of how they were received. But I do feel like the Legacy of the Force stories were really awesome, and there were some, like, really great explorations of the Force, and kind of like these alien races that, like, there was one, I'm gonna forget now, but there was one alien race or one alien that Luke encountered where like the way they communicated was like kind of flutter licking your face and like all these things, and like and some of them were kind of maybe early precursors to like the Bendu on Rebels, where there was like a, you know, a middle ground to the Force. And so I remember really enjoying those stories. And there was like this villain, I think her name was Abeloth, and she was like this like giant like squid creature, and like there's a lot, and just the drama of like, you know, Jason and you know, what was her name?
Jaina.
Thank you. And just the drama between the kids and the tragedy of that. So I, you know, I maybe they are really well acknowledged, and I just wasn't aware of how much, you know, because now it's been so long ago. But I really do enjoy those, and I thought there were some awesome stories in that kind of arc. So
For sure. That's there. It's on my list to get around to those.
cool.
I feel like it's
Oh, sorry, I spoiled it. Sorry.
gosh, I kind of know, the arc that comes from all of those books, but I need to get around to reading them all specifically. But I just think that it's it's Luke and Mara's story, and
Yeah.
the whole family story, that like I just love
Right.
that the expanded universe really just leaned into all of that, keeping those characters at the center of
Yes.
all of that drama.
Yeah, I would agree. I do miss like spending time with Han, Luke, and Leia. You know, it's been a while since I've gotten to do a story with them, and you're right. Like, there's something special about that, and you know,
Yeah.
you feel a deeper connection to those characters.
Yeah. You just did Princess and the Scoundrel though, right?
I did. You're right. Yes. And
That
that
was
was definitely fun.
and that was with Saskia, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how was that? We talked a little bit before we started recording about working in tandem with other people on projects. Do you enjoy that, more or less? Is there a difficulty that comes with working with another person? What do you prefer?
Ooh, another good question. I so I love both for different reasons. Like I definitely love working with other actors because there is something special about playing off of their performance and how their performance and their take on a scene in the moment will influence your response. You know, like that you just can't get when you don't have somebody else there. So that I really do enjoy that, and I wish that there was the budget to do that more often, because it's so much fun, and it's such a deeper, richer final product, I think. But then on the other hand, like January Lavoie talks a lot about how there is something unique about a single performer doing the entire book, and it's kind of like when you go to see a one person show, or when it's like, or when you see like a musician do something acoustically. It's like, sure, they could have the full band, the drums and the dancers and the lights, and that's one experience, and that's an awesome experience. But there's also something really special about, just seeing someone sit on a stool with their guitar and one microphone, and there's something that's really intimate and draws you in that, and it's a different experience. And it's not like, you can't always say one is better than the other. It's just they're different, and they're both special for their own reasons, so I like thinking of it that way. And I enjoy the challenge of trying to tell the story by myself, but then I also enjoy playing off of other performers and getting to kind of create with them. So they're both great for different reasons, I guess. So
For sure. I love that. And let's start to talk about a project that's collaborative in a totally different way. I've absolutely loved the High Republic. So
yes.
excited to see what's coming.
Yeah.
And it's funny because of obviously the authors were involved in the writing of the story, but when it came to the actual the performance, the getting ready to kind of bring this to the world, you kind of got first dibs on that, didn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
you did Light of the Jedi, and so in that moment, when you're starting out on what you know is going to be an ongoing project like that, does it feel like a blank slate? Did you receive anything from the authors or from the publishers about what the idea was for this, and how did you approach those first steps?
Yeah, it was definitely kind of daunting and exciting. Um, I I originally got sent like a PDF that what I think a lot of it is now what's in the Art of the High Republic book, but I
Mhm.
got sent like a lot of concept art and kind of, character drawings and different things like that. So they could kind of get a feel and a sense for what the authors were doing. And I think it was what the authors were using it also, like they were kind of getting to look at that. So that was incredibly inspirational and like, just seeing some of these art, these Jedi and what they look like. I definitely was able to connect to them in a different way. Um, and I think, it was like it was definitely challenging because like Light of the Jedi has a lot of new characters and a lot of new concepts and like it's kind of like stepping into the world and it was almost like who's the central hero of this book, and it's more of an ensemble piece,
Yeah.
so like um but I loved I just really loved it. I felt like I don't know how spoilery we should get. You can bleep me out or edit this out, but like the I love the exploration of how different Jedi view the Force in different
Mhm.
ways. I was just so into that, and I thought that was like so new and exciting. Because I'm a big like what I love about Star Wars is the Jedi and just or the Force, and just and
Yep.
so like I'm loving. I loved that in Phase One, and now I'm even more loving the exploration of like different religions within the Force,
Yeah.
like the path of the open hand and the Church of the Force, and like and so I'm just so fascinated by it all, and it's really cool. And so yeah, so like I don't know, I'm kind of rambling now, but yeah, I kind of had to go through and look at the concept art in that, and then just kind of read the book. And I do this thing where I cast it where I anytime a character speaks in the book, I'll take a couple lines of their dialogue, any descriptions that the author gives me or the other characters in the book describe what that character is to them, and then I try to come up with voices based on that. So it's a long process, but
Mhm.
I think it helps me keep everybody straight when I have to record, and like if I can try to make them as distinct as possible. So
For sure. And yeah, with something like that where you've got so many characters, I mean, Light of the Jedi, especially, you've got a whole set of characters that, again, spoiler alert, they're all in that first part of the book, and
yeah,
they're
yeah,
there on the proverbial screen, and then they're not
yeah,
anymore. And
yeah.
it just strikes me that, you do such a nice job of really making every character distinct, every character so recognizable, regardless of whether they're on the page for, just one or the entire series.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So when
Thank
you're
you.
doing that pre-production process, does it like, what are you doing? Are you reading the book just straight through, once? Do you go slowly and make notes as you go, or what's the process like as you get to know a book?
Yeah. I think when I first started, I tried to do it as I went along. But I stopped doing that because a lot of times there would be like twists that would happen that then wouldn't fit the voice I picked for a particular character. Like, there were a couple times where, the gender wasn't assigned. And then in chapter 6, you find out it's she reached for her, like, oh no, so I kind of, and then there's also times where like a character you think we can trust, turns out to, be, deceiving everybody. And so maybe the voice I picked would, you know, not fit with where the character ends up towards the end, or, vice versa. Or so, um, so now what I do is I read it all the way through, and I do just take notes on what the characters are as I'm going, but then I finish it, and then I go back and try to like assign voices to them. And because that also helps with like, if this character's talking a lot versus if they're only in this one scene, I might want to like give a more distinct voice to the one that's talking a lot so that they can really be followed throughout the whole book. Or um so yeah, it's not the most efficient, but but it's what works for me. So
Yeah, there's a lot that I'm sure goes into that. This is probably not something that you ever get to a place where you can just, read it on the fly. As good as you can get to be in terms of a narrator and a storyteller, you know, you have to really plan out what
yeah,
you're gonna do with these.
yeah. I know there's no way. Like I wouldn't want to do that as a fan, number one, just because it would be too important to me that it's done well. And then it's just like, I have to know where the story, like part of it might be just, I'm not that great of a cold reader or whatever, but I have to know what's going on so that I know what to emphasize and what to foreshadow and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes to distinctive voices, I just have to ask you about, you've done so many great characters, but the one that will always stick out in my mind is Markion,
All
which
right.
I love him. And I will say, I know that, there was the dichotomy, the Martian versus Markion. I liked Martian more.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's still kind of
yeah.
what I say more in my head. So
Right.
and I've told my friends who have just, read the first couple of books in the High Republic series. I've told them, you have to go back and you have to read the audiobook because there's something about Markion's voice
Uh,
that just like that was what I felt made the character come alive to me. And so
thanks.
did you have any direction with that, or was that all you?
Um, I mean, I always have direction because like Kevin's always helping me and kind of
Yeah.
like, if I'm going too far, he'll reel me back in, or or if it's not fitting within the bigger piece of the puzzle, he'll help me out with that. So it's always collaborative. But I pretty much came with that idea, and he liked it. And I think it was mainly just from Charles's description of him. And like, I forget the exact line, but like it was something about, he spoke like it was like something about like he spoke with a whisper, or there was something. And I liked that, the way he starts out is so unassuming and so seemingly weak, that it's a real shocker when you find out he's been manipulating, or he has this plan, or he does then have this like fit of rage and does something incredibly brutal. And like, you're like, whoa. So like, I wanted the voice to try to reflect some of that. So I like this idea of like, he's kind of like soft spoken and strange and uncomfortable to listen to. But if you make me angry, I will stomp your brain, like just really like, like, so like something to like just make him unsettling and disturbing. And because even in the way he's described as how he looks, like almost like a shark, and like, there's this like, and the kind of the stillness of a shark until it attacks. So like I was there was a lot of those things, and a lot of that was just from Charles and how he's described and written in Light of the Jedi. And so there was it was a lot of inspiration to draw from. So
So cool. I love
Mhm.
that. So I know that I think that the his name, that kind of became a fandom thing because, the authors kind of, came out and said, okay, we were thinking that it was more Markion, not Martian. And it
Yeah.
got me thinking, in terms of, the question of, what do you receive at those beginning stages? Like you said, you talk about getting concept art, getting direction from the director and producers. But, are there any, misconceptions or, like what is it that fans should know about your place in that collaboration? Do you think that fans really understand where you kind of sit in that process?
uh well, maybe like I did like I did like I guess maybe they should know like when we do the audiobooks, I get a spreadsheet that comes from Kevin, that comes from Lucasfilm. And there is like discussion about, this planet is pronounced this way, or this alien species, or these names are pronounced this way. And there is, there's communication with that. So it's not like I'm just making it up on the fly. Like, I think it should be Markion. Like, so like there was like, there was kind of decisions. And even if you listen to the first, they did those YouTube videos when the High Republic were coming out, and they kind of had those little character videos. And even in that first character video, it's Markion, so like there was, so what just happens is like, when you're dealing with the different comic series and the young adult books, and which are produced by Disney, and then the adult books, which are produced by Del Rey, and then, video games and, cartoons and all that stuff. And then TV shows, it's like, inevitably the ship gets so big, and there's so many things that you do have Twi'lek and Twi'lek, or Leia or Leah, or Han and Han, and and so those things just happen. And Dave Filoni and George Lucas are famous for saying, it's a big galaxy, and people pronounce potato here, so we shouldn't be surprised that people pronounce things differently in the galaxy far, far away. So like, but I guess I did get a little like nervous when that whole thing came out on the internet, that people were assuming that I didn't care, and I was just, I'll just do this, and I even DM'd Charles. I was like, I'm so like, please understand, I was told to say it this way. And he's like, no, it's not a big deal. It's like Leia, what, and it's just the way thing, and so, and then Kristen, I think Braver had some fun with them about it, so like, but I was terribly insecure about it, because I was like, I didn't want people to think that I wasn't paying attention, or I wasn't caring about it. I was just, there were discussions like, hey, on High Republic show, they're saying it this way. Is this the way, like, no, so it, but it was, so I think things like that just happen, and they when you're dealing with that many words and that many, and sometimes there's even, well, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
and it just strikes me that, that really is going to be an effect of really any kind of artistic collaboration. You're
Yeah.
always going to have those things that kind of rub up against each other. And I understand why fans who care so much about these franchises, there is a rub, and they get a little bit stressed out when it feels like, oh, this comic book contradicted what we saw on
Right.
screen, or like when Bad Batch came out and it kind of retconned some of Kanan's story and stuff like that. Like, I totally understand it, but I do think that I think that everybody would be a lot happier if we kind of had an understanding that, like, this is going to happen. Not only is it going to happen, but I think that you can be a lot happier if you kind of take the idea of, like, this is all history being told from different perspectives. And if something doesn't match up, then you can attribute it to someone else's perspective and the way they tell a story.
And that is exactly Kevin Thompson's approach. Like he feels like these were stories told a long time ago in a place far, far away. So it's kind of like a little bit of the telephone game, but it's also just, it's different interpretations. It's like, you can see the story of King Arthur, or you can see the story of Batman, and you can see, like, when different directors or different time periods tell that story, it's there's certain elements that are slightly different, but the core of the story is the same. And that's kind of, it loosens you up a little bit too, in terms of artistic expression. It's like, well, this is this person's take on this story, or, so yeah, it's cool.
Very cool. I'm not gonna, you don't have to say anything, no spoilers here, but I'm sure that you're further ahead than all of us, still stuck in phase 2. So, at this point, what are you preparing for, or doing, right around now? Where are you in this process?
Well, all right, can I Google something really quick to make sure I'm allowed to say something?
Yeah, we want to make sure that all NDAs are respected as far as you need it.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, welcome, DDoc. We're glad to have you on.
What's going on? I just watched both Bad Batch episodes.
Wasn't it good?
Good Lord. I never know if I'm in for a kid's show or like the most intense thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing. It's like so deep, and like they're just really going for it.
Political drama. I just love it.
Okay,
seriously.
It's on Amazon, so I'm going to assume I'm allowed to say it. But I am on Monday. I'm going in to record Cataclysm, the next High Republic Del Rey book.
Wonderful.
So and I obviously can't say anything about it, but it's really good. Like there's some really awesome things that happen. So
very cool. How long does it take for you to record when you do a book?
I'll be there Monday through Friday from like 10 in the morning till like 6 at night.
Okay.
So,
that's a lot.
They let me out for food and bathroom, but otherwise it's like read.
I'm always amazed when you listen to an audiobook. I'm a performer. I've done a little bit of audio work.
Oh, cool.
Enough to know, people are in that booth for hours upon hours at a time. And it's always amazing to me when you can't tell that someone might be flagging a little bit. And that's the game.
Yeah, it's the marathon.
Do you have like a pre-game ritual when it's like the night before, when you're going to be going into the booth, where you're like, all right, like, do you have anything that you'll do like consistently before you record these, or you're just like you can just go in there and do it basically? Like
no, I just I mean, it's like the night before, like the few days leading up. Like when I'm walking the dog, a lot of times I'm like practicing different voices, or like, trying out different things to see if I like how it sounds or if it's going to work or not. So there's a lot of like in the shower, talking to myself, and in the dog, walking the dog, talking to the dog in these weird voices. So there's a lot of that. And then I try to, it's mainly that, and just sleep and water. There's a lot of like, I have a giant water bottle that I go through like 3 of them a day, like I'm just like, because I just got to keep it lubricated. So
when you have all of these characters, do you find that they kind of live in your head permanently and you can just kind of pull them out? Or when like when you did Princess and the Scoundrel, maybe you probably hadn't done Han in a while. Do you kind of have to find him again?
A little bit. Like I think like with Han, with the original trilogy ones, they kind of more lived it in my head permanently. It had been a while since I did Han, so I for those I pretty much always will rewatch like Empire or Jedi as I'm getting ready for it, or just have it on in the background to kind of like resaturate my brain with it. But like a lot of if they're not legacy characters that I grew up with, then a lot of times as soon as I'm done recording, they're like gone from my brain, and I have to go back, and like I have like files and like hundreds of files on my phone that I have to go back and listen to when I'm getting ready to do the next book, to refresh. Like, what did I do? Oh yeah, right. Just because there's just not enough memory on the hard drive to like keep it all there permanently. So the original trilogy ones are there just because I've grown up with them and I idolize them, but like everybody else, I get stuck in the RAM and has to get refreshed or whatever.
I don't know. I think that it sounds like you've got a pretty cool gig.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Does it ever lose its excitement, or do you kind of wake up going, man, I get to read all these Star Wars books?
No, yeah, Kevin, the director, will make fun of me a lot of times. It's like, you would do this for free, wouldn't you? And I'm like, yeah, but don't tell anybody.
So as we start to, kind of move into Star Wars proper, we'll talk about Bad Batch. For you, when did the love of Star Wars first start?
I was born in 75, so it's one of those things where as far back as I can remember, I remember Star Wars being in my life, like just action figures. And I was too young to see New Hope, but I saw Empire in the theater, and I would go to my grandma's house and she had all the figures, and so it was always there. It's like it's hard for me to remember a time where I wasn't a fan of it. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So and you find that you keep up with everything that's coming out, all of the live action movies or shows, the animated shows, or is there kind of stuff that you have to, don't have enough time for everything?
Well, yeah, I guess I don't have time for everything, but I mean, with I watch all the live action shows. I watch all the animation except the Lego stuff. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
get into like Lego Freemakers and like I watched a couple of the holiday specials, but that's not super my thing. But like but like all the like Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, I'm totally always there. All the live action stuff, I've done everything, obviously every movie. The a lot of the I definitely haven't done every book. Like I've done the books I've worked on and I've listened to a few for my own like enjoyment, but there's so many and I'm usually either working on stuff and prepping stuff that's the one area where I feel like I haven't been able to be a completionist and I'd like to, like I just listened to I had a break over the holidays where I wasn't as busy and I listened to Path of Deceit, which was I think the first of phase 2, but I didn't do that one. But that one was great and I really, really enjoyed that. And I wish I remember the narrator's name, but she did a great job. But the book itself was awesome. And so I know I would love all of the other High Republic books and all the other just Star Wars, but like Shadow of the Sith is on my list of, things I want to get around to. So there's a lot out there of the books that I'd love to do more, but I just haven't, those were harder to find time for. So
Yeah, you can't be it's hard to be a completionist in
yeah,
a franchise as big as this.
yeah.
I feel that tension too. I've got like, at one point keeping a list of all of the audiobooks that I have listened to,
Right.
trying to get your hands on a lot of books that aren't even in print anymore.
Yep.
Oh man, it's just it's a whole adventure just to get your hands on the material.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk a bit about Bad Batch. This was such a fun double episode this week. I really love that they gave us both parts instead of making us wait, because I remember like when I ended that first episode, I was just like, man, thank goodness that there's another episode to follow this up, because I would not want to have to wait a week. So DDoc, you just finished it just minutes
Yeah.
ago. So
Yes.
give us your thoughts.
Yeah. Crazy week with my kids. I usually try to watch it the night it comes out, but and I've been watching this with my son and he didn't watch this episode, which
no.
he did not watch these two, and he's 5 years old.
Okay.
He has loved this. So
Yeah.
he's going to be 6 actually, and I should say 6. He's going to be 6 in like a week or so. So this is my first show that I'm watching in tandem with him. So that's why I'm loving it, because honestly, this kid picks up on Star Wars better than me now. I just recently turned 32 years old. He remembers names even better than I do and
Wow.
everything. So he's set. He has a dad who likes Star Wars.
That's great.
Like he's good. My dad, my mom, I don't know how I got into Star Wars, but he's set. But man, these 2 episodes were just great. And I don't know about you guys. I find myself getting distracted with how amazing the animation is for this show. Like sometimes I'm watching something and then I'll be like, I need to stop a second and rewind because I'm not even paying attention to what they're saying, because I'm just like lost in the visuals of it.
Yeah.
Like Coruscant was amazing on these episodes. Like, oh my God. I don't know that I can, like, as we go along, we'll touch on certain points here, but like, I don't know. The Bad Batch has a tendency to like, you'll have a couple crazy episodes and then you'll have some fun ones, and then it'll just get deep.
Yes.
And it's like, and these were 2 deep ones, very deep. It was great. I mean, what do you guys think about it? I'll let you guys go in right now.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the animation is like so like stunning and detailed and like, and even like some of the shadowy stuff, it's like really, really impressive. And like, so I'm blown away by that. I'm blown away that, I keep thinking, oh, it's a fun kid show and Omega and but like they touch on like these really deep, like, concepts of morality and like what is right and wrong, and just learning it from her eyes. And I just, so I'm just so fascinated. And I love, it's almost like it's an interesting companion piece to Andor, because what I feel like both of them have done so well is show how evil the Empire is in kind of these like bureaucratic, seemingly small ways, but that have these huge ripple effects, and just showing you like how insidious and how like how careful you need to be with evil, because it can sneak in in these like almost mundane ways, but then have these huge impacts, and just like it like who would have thought like seeing a debate in Congress would be so compelling and engaging, and then like the floor opens up and the emperor comes out and you're like, whoa, and like and but then like just that debate with like there was so much tension because you knew what this decision was going to lead to, and like but it was just done so well. Like, this is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on that. First off, to the appearance of the show. I think the only problem that I have is that when I go back and watch Clone Wars, I'm like, oh man, I wish it looked like Bad Batch.
Yeah.
And especially with this one, there's no secret for me. I love Obi-Wan and Satine's story. So what really caught me with these episodes, I love all the political intrigue. I love all of the Senate scenes, all of the stuff. But this also really reminded me of the season 2 episode in Clone Wars, Duchess of Mandalore, which is the one where Satine goes to Coruscant and has to advocate for Mandalore not to be invaded by the Jedi and the Republic forces.
Right.
And it's got a lot of the same elements where it's like clandestine meetings and kind of being on the run and skulking around the lower levels of Coruscant, and the finale trying to get a message into the Senate chambers before a bill goes through, and like so there was a lot of those elements there. So my mind kept going back to, oh, man, I wish that all of those early episodes of Clone Wars looked like this. But then what I loved about it, I love my thing is that the thing that so many people criticize the prequels for, that all the politics, all people thinking that this was all just down in the weeds, that's the thing that makes Star Wars so real to me. I love sci-fi, I love other franchises, but Star Wars really sticks with me because it feels so real as we deal with political drama in our own world. And what I love about this episode, and there's some episodes of the Clone Wars too, is when you get to see beyond the story that's being told and see how Palpatine's using it in his game. So
yes,
there's an episode, it's the final episode of the Rush Clovis arc in Clone Wars, where like and those ones too, like a lot of people, you either love them or you hate them. But then in that case, like with Clovis and Anakin and Padme, like there's a lot of drama there. It's kind of a soap opera. And then what I have always loved about those episodes is that it's like one of the final scenes, or maybe the final scene, when what you find is that all of this drama ends with Palpatine taking over the banking clan's resources, and you see how he puts himself in power over that. And and you see this exact same thing in this last episode, where he comes up and Ryo Chuchi's just achieved what she wants to achieve, and then plays right into his hands. I loved I saw someone on Twitter say something like, oh, now we know why Palpatine wasn't in Andor, because he's basically just been hiding out underneath the Senate floor waiting for a chance to come up.
Yeah,
No,
he was just like, now's my opportunity. Like he was ready. He was just ready to go up. That like you said earlier, Mark, like when that thing opened, I'm just like, Palpatine's coming. Here he comes. Like, this is about to get real. Like,
it just makes you feel so sorry for the clones too, because it's like they were just following orders, but then he like uses that, he spins it in such a way, it's like, how could they blindly follow orders? Just like, and just to show how disposable they are, and just like it was just so good.
Yeah, and plus it was Ian McDiarmid doing his voice.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, that
so
was
cool.
one thing. Like right when I heard him talk, I'm like, oh wow, they pulled Ian in for this and put him in the booth, and this is some deep stuff. And I mean, now like the question is too, is like what more situations with Palpatine are we going to start to, because this is like the question I've always had, is I've always questioned what happened to the clones. Like what was there like an Order 66 moment for them, which I've said a couple episodes ago on our podcast, like will we find that out? And it's like that's starting to come to fruition, because like this is seeming like some dark stuff is about to happen to them. Like I don't know if they're planning to like execute them or what? Like, it's
Right.
pretty bad, like whatever they plan to do. And Palpatine gave a perfect speech. I was like, damn
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
he took what he
Yeah.
was given and knocked it out. Like, political ball game right there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun for Ian McDiarmid to be able to come in and basically just do a little 5-minute monologue, in and out, but to get such good,
Yeah.
meaty speeches like that.
No, totally. And was
So-
there something in, I can't remember what the line was, but were they kind of implying that the clones are still rapidly aging and that they're like, was there some line where it almost made me wonder if they're going to like age them all out or something, or like as another way that they die off, or like, I don't know. In addition to like hunting them down, probably.
Yeah, they did mention that like, like they're rapidly aging, and they also said like, that's what do we do as we get older, and they're just like, that's not in our protocol. Like, we don't know what happens, basically.
Which I think that was new to me. I thought they rapidly aged up to the age they wanted them to be for combat, but I didn't know that was still, which is interesting to think about, if they have a limited lifespan. So
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that, because I think that it's always kind of been a gray area. I don't know if it's been established that they, age to a certain point and that, or, age at a faster rate and then don't. But I was surprised that they solidified that they do continue to age. But I guess we do see, I mean, Rex and Rebels and, all of those, like they're pretty old.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
That's true. And that's 20, 30 years. Yeah. So
Yeah. But yeah, I like that we're still getting, it's Ryo. I thought it was pronounced Rio in Clone Wars, so I'm trying to go back and see where did I pick that up, but I guess Ryo Chuchi picking up Padme's clone rights banner and seeing that. And for me, what I would really like, and I have a real feeling that this is probably one of those things that's kind of under embargo as The Mandalorian is happening, but I've always thought it would be really interesting to see, do any of the clones try to lean into their Mandalorian heritage and
oh my gosh,
say the Rezalnare?
That would be cool.
I want to see that. I want to see, and I also want to see the fall of Mandalore to the Empire, which, like, we've already seen Mandalore fall several times. We got that in, we got the fall of Sundari in season 5 of Clone Wars. We're seeing it in Mando, but then between that, there is in this period the point where, after Order 66, Palpatine comes and usurps Bo-Katan and kicks her out. And that's and I think that that's what's being referenced in The Mandalorian when she hears Boba speak and she says, "I've heard your voice thousands of times." And she's angry at him because she's been usurped by a whole army of people that look like him.
Yes.
And so, like, that's the thing. Like, I really want to see that on screen. And they've used basically every other character, every other updated model that they used for Clone Wars season 7, except for Mandalore. And I'm just like, come on, give it to me. But then let the clones like lean into that Mando heritage.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and that's like the tough part about Bad Batch 2 is it's like you get these deep storylines, and then it's like we might just have like another Sid mission like next week that might not have like anything to do with this. But
I really like that though. I like that it kind of feels like storytelling in like the 90s and 2000s of like, X-Files, like Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
Like I was a big Stargate fan, like Planet of the Week stories where you kind of like get those little one-off stories that just at that time, like we never really questioned it. It was like you get a 24 episode season and most of them would kind of be one-offs, and then you'd get the mid-season finale and the season finale where it's like that's where it would contribute to the bigger overarching story. And I think that people have kind of forgotten that that's kind of how it used to be, because now we're so used to like having these like 8 episode seasons where we think that everything has to just be basically one long miniseries.
Right. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I can get down with that too, just because like I've said I'm watching with my son right now, and I'm curious as to how he'll receive these 2 episodes, just because the amount of politics involved. I actually can't wait to see how he absorbs it and watches and thinks about it, because he just still can't believe that the clones turned on the Jedi. Like he's
Wow.
still like
Oh,
he's still just like blown away by
yeah.
all of that. Like, so we actually just watched Revenge of the Sith for the first time, and
Oh, wow.
we had an episode where I was like, when is the right time to watch that with your
Yeah.
child? Because
Yeah.
it does get intense, and he's been asking to watch it, and that was the one Star Wars movie I held off on, because
Right,
it
right,
really
right.
is just emotionally intense. But
Yeah.
yeah, you don't need every like I can understand how maybe like some people like our age who are watching this and want that intensity all the time. You don't need it all the time with the Bad Batch. You can have those fun episodes, and then you can have those serious ones, because I do like the mystery of each week going in. Like, I wasn't ready for this week. I didn't
Yeah.
see any spoilers online or anything, and it was damn good.
Yeah.
I'm a big Bad Batch fan. It's something I caught on to Clone Wars late. I was a late bloomer as far as animation goes. I thought it was just something I could never get into.
Uh-huh.
And now I watch these, and I'm just like, I wish I could convince my friends who only watch the Star Wars
Oh, yeah.
movies to watch these animated shows, because it just builds this world so well. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's honestly some of the best, in my opinion. Like, I really like some
yeah,
of the best stories, and like, yeah, the lore stuff is really great.
I
I think
lock
it's great.
into it.
I think it's great because when they do this kind of stuff, yeah, they're doing it for a younger audience, but they've always done such a good job of making everything really compelling, sometimes really dark for kids. Like, I mean, yeah, like Clone Wars and whatnot. But I think that it's nice that they don't have to have so many expectations. Like, when you go to the theater to watch a Star Wars movie, you are expecting big things. You are
Yeah.
expecting, lore altering content. And what I like is that there's still a lot of that there. It's just that it happens slower and more subtly, and I prefer that anyway.
Yeah.
I also think, the question that I have, that I really haven't been able to discern from Bad Batch, because I'm not sure if they've been totally consistent about it, is the chips. And, so they introduced the chips in Clone Wars. Then you get the added complication of like Rex was able to overcome his chip. But in general, like in the Bad Batch, you see the batch weren't affected by theirs. You see other clones who were. Crosshair got his taken out, and his ideology is one that allows him to still really line up with the Empire. But then we
Right.
see other ones who either seem to still be under the influence of the chips,
Yeah.
or not really, like or almost like halfway in between, where it's like it doesn't even feel like they really know what they're doing. So I don't
Yeah.
know, like either of you have any thoughts on like that and what you've been assuming is going on?
I'm not sure, honestly. I was thinking that tonight, actually. Is it's like, did they not think about what happens after Order 66? And like, do these chips kind of have like a one-time release, and then they kind of like go back to like, I don't know. I do think that this season might give us answers on that as well. I'm really hoping it does, because
Yeah.
when they're in that bar and all those guys are there, you can tell it's almost like a 50-50 mix of like some guys who kind of like feel bad and want to right the things that they wronged, and other guys who are just like, I just want to go fight. It's like, it's very interesting. I'm not sure on it, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's like, I think they might be trying to play with the idea that, just like in real life, like different individuals are motivated by different things or experiences. And like, I think because like at one point after Crosshair's chip is taken out, or they're wondering if it had been or not, and the fact that it had been and he still makes the choice anyway, I think is them trying to say that, like, people can still see this differently, and people can still have different perspectives on this. But I think like as it becomes more clear what the Empire is doing, more of the clones are starting to kind of wake up and realize, hey, this isn't right. Like and I think that's going to be interesting, like as more clones start to kind of see what, what's actually going on. And, because there are certain, people that maybe they just feel like it's not my duty to ask why. It's just, I just need to follow orders, and the whole good soldiers follow orders thing. So, but then it's like it's harder to ignore for some of them. So I think it's really interesting.
I actually like have a question too, which like is part of this episode, but is it in canon what happened to the Senate? Because I honestly thought as that hologram was playing, I thought Palpatine was about to come out and start sending like some lightning or something. Like I thought he was just about to be like I thought he was about to hit that hologram and just be like, this stops now. Like,
Right.
I got kind of nervous, and then I'm like, I don't really know what happened to the Senate, if it just dissolved or what. Like,
well, I'm
Leia
yeah.
calls herself an Imperial Senator in New Hope.
Right.
That's how she introduces herself.
When
so it still existed.
Yeah, because like in the middle of episode 4, it's Tarkin or somebody walks into the briefing room and says we've just now dissolved the Senate, or so I think up until Leia's been capped, it still exists in some form, and then they dissolve it finally.
That's what I really love about Andor and Mon Mothma's story, of seeing that these people who are so against the Empire do have to play by Imperial rules in order to keep having that voice, even when people kind of know that their own loyalties don't match up. So that Leia claims to be an Imperial Senator, like you can see how she's playing that game. Like she's part of that world, but she's a complete rebel on the side.
Right. No, it's pretty amazing.
And that's why I laugh about Star Wars, because it's like half of the points you guys brought up after I said that, I actually already know some of that stuff, but it's like you just get so lost in the moment that I'm just like, he's about to end the Senate. He's about to send the Force like it. It's like, no, Dave, the Senate actually existed much longer after that. But that's why Filoni is just so good at telling the story and everything. It's great.
Yeah. So, as we're wrapping up here, we've got much more of the Bad Batch. We've got Mando coming. We've got other shows coming after that. What are you guys excited for?
I'll let Mark go first.
I mean, I'm loving Mando. Like Mando's probably my favorite of the live action shows. So I can't wait for season 3. I think I'm really excited. I think Ahsoka has the chance to blow me away even more than Mando, just because I like Rebels is my all-time favorite cartoon, and the fact that they're drawing so much from Rebels has got me really, really excited. And rumors are that Thrawn's coming, so that could be cool. And so I'm like immediately I'm most excited for Mando, and then after that I can't wait for Ahsoka. Like I feel like I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, for me it's Mando. I'm especially this season, it's all Mandalore, it's Bo-Katan, it's learning more about her history and her sister and all of that. Like I'm just so excited. I'm so excited that Din is finally going to start like he's finally coming into like being a Star Wars protagonist. I have like I think that people make a lot of jokes like he's a protagonist who doesn't know he's in Star Wars. And that definitely kind of that I think that there's a lot of truth to that, but he's finally going to be around people who know Mandalore's story. He's finally going to be kind of in the thick of all of this, and it's going to be so cool to see. Hopefully the armor is back, and I'm really hoping that this season we finally get more answers about the context surrounding this. Like I remember going into season 2 and I was like, we're going to learn all about, who the armorer is, like this whole, and we kind of learned that, Bo-Katan calls Din's a
cult,
covert, like a cult.
And
so we get that there's some tension there, but like there's so many more questions that season 2 raised about all of that didn't really tell us a lot more if you've already seen Clone Wars and Rebels. And so I'm really hoping that this is the season where we finally get a lot more lore beyond kind of just getting the casual fans caught up.
Right. No, I agree. Like I'm dying to know where the keeping the helmet on came from. Like, was that to protect their numbers and keep people guessing how many there actually are, or like, and what caused that divide? And like, I agree. Like, I want to know where these two philosophies diverged and why they diverged, and what the story is behind that. So
Same.
Yep, I'm right on. I'm right with you guys. It's absolutely Mando, and I've been seeing some rumblings of some movie ideas, which gets me really excited because I want to see Star Wars in the movie theaters.
yes,
And there's
me
some
too.
there's some stuff jumping around that there might be a movie with Rey and Grogu, which I'm just like, that's an
What?
insane crossover. Yeah,
Oh, that'd be
but
fun.
yeah, it's two likable characters. So I mean, I don't know. See, like me, when I hear that, I'm just like, well, where were Grogu and Mando when everything was happening with the First Order? But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but
That's
yeah,
true. I hope
there's
there's
there's some rumblings of movies which gets me excited. But I mean, as you guys said, like The Mandalorian is one of my favorite live action Star Wars things ever. I just love it. And I think I'm going to be, I got to ramp up a rewatch like very soon because it's this season is going to be here like in the blink of an eye. It's
weeks,
really, yeah. So it's been so long since season 2, and we got that small taste in the Book of Boba Fett, where it was just amazing. So yeah,
Well, we've been
I'm
waiting
really
so long. I mean,
yes.
season 2, because Boba Fett came in between.
Oh,
I
you're
knew
right.
that it was going to be over 2 years, and people were like, no, they'll get Boba Fett done and they'll go right into production for Mando. It's like, no, that's not how this works. They don't have enough people to go straight into production for Mando, and so it was like I knew that there was going to be a wait. I'm just like, come on, I just need it back so bad.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I'm so excited. I'm going to be going to Star Wars Celebration in London. So
Lucky.
that's going to be fun because it's going to be Mando will be airing. I think Bad Batch will still be airing, so
All right.
that'll be fun to kind of see it all kind of coalesce and be able to celebrate all of that together. So I'm just absolutely stoked for that. So we'll see. You'll appreciate, Mark, right over here. This is the first part of my Lena So cosplay.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I'm very excited.
Wow.
I was able to talk to Kevin Scott a couple months ago, and Lena's my girl. She's
That's great.
I think that like a lot of people, they gravitate towards the Jedi. I mean, obviously for me, like I love the politics, and so I asked Kevin, who haven't you seen
Oh,
for cosplay, and he said he hasn't seen Lena yet, so I'm gonna change that.
that's so cool.
That is awesome. Your background has increased, by the way, since the last time you've been on the podcast. That is like an excellent background with your books and everything behind you. I love it.
Yeah.
I know it's
Thanks.
different than the last time you were on too. Now, did you show Mark your lightsaber, by the way? Because I need to throw that out there. Because this thing is awesome.
It's Stellan's
Oh,
lightsaber.
whoa.
So-
Where'd you get that?
I got it at oh, there we go.
No
So,
way.
yeah. It was at the CCC con in Nashville last year. I've seen several different vendors use it, but yeah, it's
That's
pretty cool.
gorgeous. Yeah.
It's only got one button, but if you do it right, you can turn on sounds, you can make it change colors. So
Wow.
I'm hoping I would love to be able to get this to London too, but
Yeah.
when you can only take a suitcase, less than 50 pounds, and
Right.
and I've got plans for Lena's Targons. So
Oh, I was gonna ask about them. Yeah, that's really cool.
I've got
what are you gonna do?
I've got a very it's very ambitious. I'm hoping that I can pull it off.
Oh,
But I'm hoping to do the Targons kind of like little marionettes that hang off my arms. And then what I'm planning to do to keep the weight and the bulk down is I'm not going to stuff them until I get to London.
brilliant.
And the inside is going to they're going to have Velcro on their backs. And so the inside is going to be basically my purses for all of my swag that I get.
That's brilliant.
So we'll
I'd
see.
love to see pictures. I'd really love to see pictures.
That's the hope. So I'll make sure to
Yeah.
make sure that you're able to
Please
see
do.
that.
Yeah.
So, well, that's so much fun. So much fun to talk to you guys tonight. I love that we can, get together, talk books, talk Bad Batch, all of these things. So much exciting stuff that's happening in the franchise right now, and lots of fun to be able to get together and discuss it. So,
Totally.
thank you both for joining us. And Thank you to all of our listeners. You can find the Rule the Galaxy at all of the social media sites, and we certainly hope that you'll join us for our next episode. So have a wonderful day, and may the Force be with you.